Hi everybody, I hope you're doing well today. My name is DJ Que Madre. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are celebrating Physicians for Social Responsibility's 40th year anniversary. I'm going to be playing some movement music for you all today, so I hope you enjoy.
Alright, I'm going to kick up the slideshow.
When we're feeling handling, we do our thing and we're gonna win. Revolution will not be televised, we're marching in. Listening to the sound, body on, painting in. Plus I'm leaning in to the left, melanin. Generating another level of thought development. Altering anomaly, sentiment with intellect. See, I found beauty in the strength of our unity and unison with our people's history and legacy. A most sensitive sentiment of a falling star. Everybody say rest in peace, Salazar. I break bread with veterans of the urban board. Past, present tense, still rocking Pendletons. I only move when the people say it's movement. So assume that a rebel is your future president. Browning of America. Browning of America. Browning of America. Browning of America. Y si ella baila, sigue la corriente. Y si marcha, sigue la corriente. No digas nada y sigue la corriente. Vamos al frente y sigue la corriente. Qué bonito es, huh? Qué bonito es, qué bonito es, huh? Qué bonito es, qué bonito es, huh? Browning of America. Browning of America. Browning of America. Browning of America.
Yo puedo ser tu hermana, tu hija, Tamara, Pamela o Valentina. Yo puedo ser tu gran amiga, incluso tu compañera de vida. Yo puedo ser tu gran aliada, la que aconseja y la que apaña. Yo puedo ser cualquiera de todas, depende de cómo tú me apodas. Pero no voy a ser la que obedece, porque mi cuerpo me pertenece. Yo decido de mi tiempo, como quiero y donde quiero. Independiente, yo nací independiente.
My name is Robert Dodge. I'm the president of Physicians for Social Responsibility Los Angeles. On behalf of the board of directors, I want to welcome you to this 40th anniversary celebration. We are pleased to kick off our Health and Justice Institute this evening. I'm so proud of our organization's work under the leadership of our executive and associate directors and our incredible staff, especially during these challenging times. Their tireless work has led to a collaboration of diverse stockholders across the region and nation, making the connections both here at home and around the world of our core issues of abolishing the existential threats of nuclear war and climate change to the health and well-being of our communities. This year has increased the need for our health voice and advocacy as the nation has experienced the COVID-19 pandemic, heightened awareness of systemic racial injustice, challenges to our fragile democracy, and the ever-present threat of nuclear war. Our approach to these public health threats has been to do so through a social, environmental, racial, and economic justice lens as we identify and articulate the social determinants of health. With the growing demand across this nation to budget our priorities, one of our national projects is called the Nuclear Weapons Community Cost Project. For 2020, we calculate the United States will spend $67.6 billion on all nuclear weapons programs, with the County of Los Angeles spending over $2 billion alone. These appalling figures rob our communities of precious dollars that could be used to address any and all of our more pressing social, health, and environmental priorities. Each of us has a role to play in bringing forth a more just, sustainable, and peaceful world. I invite you to find out more about our nuclear abolition and environmental justice work. I encourage you to support our work in any way that you can. No amount is too small, and I invite you to think about becoming a monthly sustaining donor. I know you will enjoy this evening's program. I would now like to introduce our Executive Director, Marta Dina Arguello.
Good evening. Thank you, Bob. This is a really wonderful opportunity, and organizing this event has been wonderful. It has made us reflect on all the work that we've done over the years. We're a 40-year-old organization, and I'm always amazed at how what an amazing organization this is. Not just because I'm the ED, but because I get to work with some amazing people and do work that we're all passionate about. And, you know, after 20 years of being at the organization, I still go to work. Well, I still move to my desk and work with great hope and excitement and joy about the work that we're doing. And a lot of that joy comes from the gratitude that I feel for all of the folks who've helped us along the way, all of our donors, our board members, our amazing allies, all the organizations that we work with, the health professionals that consistently give me faith in health professionals and faith that when we organize and mobilize, we can make the kind of change that we want to see in the world. And the elected officials who we've worked with and who listen to us, and even, and sometimes we have to get a little bit loud because they seem to be hard of hearing sometimes. But that credible voice of physicians united with organized communities is an incredibly powerful combination. And I'm just humbled to have been able to be part of this organization for the last 20 years. And I'm always reminded that the founders of our organization, who were committed to fighting nuclear weapons and addressing this immense threat that we faced, were also the doctors who were starting the social medicine movement, who deeply understood the social determinants of health. And you know, as they practiced during the day, they knew they had to step out of that clinic if we wanted to see the world we wanted to create, a world that is more just. And so, you know, we stand in the shadow of people like Vic Seidel and Jack Geiger, but also we all stand in the shadow of John Snow, who was the first one who said, shut down that water pump. even though we didn't understand fully germ theory. And that's really at the core of our mission, is to prevent what is preventable and heal what is healable and restore the earth and the air and the water and soil that needs to be restored so we can have healthy communities. And through this journey, we've met amazing people. And I'm going to introduce Nicole Vick, who is our newest board member. She is an inspiration. She's a public health professional. She's a professor. She's an advocate. She's an entrepreneur. She's a fashionista. And now she is a published author, having written Pushing Through, Finding the Light in Every Lesson, Words to Live By. And I will hand it over to my dear friend, Nicole. Take it away.
Tonight, we're going to learn more about PSR LA's history of innovative activism and our exciting programs at the intersection of health, justice, and the environment. We'll hear from PSR LA's longest serving board member, Dr. Jimmy Hara, and from PSR LA Executive Director, Martha Dina Arguello, and Associate Director, Denise Duffield. Dr. Jyoti Pavula will talk about her experiences with PSR LA Health Ambassador Program, followed by a panel discussion with her, Martha, and Denise on intersectionality and how we build the movement for health and justice in the years to come. We want 40 more years, 40 plus more years, right? We'll close out the night with a preview of our new Health and Justice Institute by PSRLA Membership Coordinator Rahel Kamal. And throughout the program, we'll have some DJ breaks with K Madre, along with contests for fun prizes. We're now going to hear from PSRLA's longest serving board member, Dr. Jimmy Hara. Dr. Hara is Professor of Family Medicine and Interim Associate Dean for the College of Medicine for the Charles R. Drew University of Medicine and Science. He is Professor of Clinical Family Medicine for the David Geffen School of Medicine at UCLA and the Family Medicine Director Emeritus for the Kaiser Los Angeles Center for Medical Education. Dr. Hara also serves on the Board of Fire Commissioners for the City of Los Angeles. Take it away.
The original Physicians for Social Responsibility was founded in 1961, and it started at the home of Dr. Bernard Lown, who is still alive and will be celebrating his 100th birthday next year, God willing. Dr. Lown and Dr. Victor Seidel, who passed away this past year, past president, American Public Health Association, and Dr. Jack Geiger, basically met and wanted to have the public, as well as all of the physicians, aware of the dangers of nuclear war and nuclear testing. And what they did, they mounted a campaign asking all physicians who took care of children to collect the deciduous teeth of children, and in those deciduous teeth, they were able to find measurable quantities of strontium-90 as a result of nuclear testing. And basically, it wasn't until about 1978, 1979 that PSR was resurrected, primarily through the efforts of Dr. Helen Caldecott. Dr. Tim Hayes and Dr. Saxon attended the symposium in San Francisco, and it was there that they decided we needed to start a chapter in Los Angeles. Shortly thereafter, we had our own symposium on the medical consequences of nuclear war in Los Angeles, which was well attended by thousands of physicians primarily, but the public at large also attended it. A few years later, actually, the nuclear freeze movement was going on in this country, and my wife and my two young boys, who at that time were 5 and 8, marched across the country from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C. in what was called the Great Peace March for Global Nuclear Disarmament. That same year, the international physician movement organization, the International Physicians for the Prevention of Nuclear War, IPPNW, won the Nobel Peace Prize at that time. The IPPNW was started by none other than Dr. Bernard Lown, who I already mentioned, and Dr. Yevgeny Chazov, who at that time was Minister of Health of the Soviet Union. And the two of them were actually world-famous cardiologists. In fact, Dr. Lown is considered to be the father of what we call electrophysiology cardiology, and defibrillator machines, basically, that were first produced were the product of the research done in Dr. Lown's lab. I happen to be Japanese American and understand the only two cities that were the victims of nuclear detonations were Hiroshima and Nagasaki. In Hiroshima, 140,000 individuals lost their lives over that year, and in Nagasaki, 80,000 individuals lost their lives in that year. So roughly, those two cities on August the 6th and August the 9th had as many casualties as we're now seeing with the pandemic due to COVID. I happen to be actually managing a test site for COVID testing at Charles River University and Martin Luther King Medical Center. What we're finding with COVID basically is that the target populations, if you will, are Latinx and African Americans. So in terms of the issues of public health and what have you, I would submit that racism is in that list of things that we need to pay attention to. So basically, a PSR started in the early 80s and is going strong. Early on, we actually decided that besides preventing nuclear war, we really also wanted to address the issues of the environment. And as years went on, we also embraced the idea of toxics. So the whole spectrum of things that threaten the survival of human beings on this planet.
Dr. Hara, quiet as it's kept, I'm a history buff, and I love to see the photos and to hear the storytelling. It really helps me to appreciate PSRLA even more. It is now my pleasure to introduce my dear friend and Executive Director, Martha Dina Arguello, and Associate Director, Denise Duffield.
Good evening. Thank you. It is pretty amazing to see that history in photos, and it's amazing to see both Denise and I as we've grown with the organization. I've been there 21 years. Denise has been there 16. And it has been an amazing journey to be part of this organization. And, we often talk about what is our secret sauce. What is the thing that we do that's different from any other organization? And, as Denise and I have lived through, when we were 3 staff, 2 staff, 4 staff, now we're almost, we're at 11 staff. We've doubled in size. And really the breadth of our work is now state, local, and national, and even international. And it's just been an amazing journey. And one of the things that makes that's part of our secret sauce is, as my friend Gopal says, the elasticity of the health frame. That health frame is broad and it can hold many things, right? So as Dr. Harris talked about, we started as an anti-nuclear organization, but because we are public health professionals, we knew that there was a public health lens to most social issues. So, and that's how our organization has been able to grow and hold that frame that, we talk about the powerful voice of physicians united with organized communities to confront issues of pollution, poverty, and racism. And Denise, I don't know if you want to jump in, if you've got, we've got lots of stories, right? So
Well, you were talking about your special sauce there, the magic sauce that's PSRLA. And I do think there are other public health organizations, there are other physicians organizations, there are environmental organizations, there are anti-nuclear or peace organizations, there are justice organizations, and we do it all. we definitely do, and I think that those are the main through lines that run through our programs. The threat of nuclear war is actually greater today than it was when we were founded, and that's something hard to wrap our mind around, but it is true. And at the same time, from the nuclear program, there is a legacy of environmental and racial injustice throughout the entire military nuclear complex, from the uranium mining to the impacts of testing on downwinders, to the folks who live near the nuclear waste sites. So we really do operate at this intersection of health, environment, and justice. And the way that we work with impacted communities and coalitions is what helps us build power.
Yes, when I first came to PSR, I came working with Californians for Pesticide Reform. And that is really where that model of working with coalitions and collaborating, moving beyond scarcity, and actually not trying to not compete with each other for funding, and collectively making decisions about where funds should go, where they are most critical. It really cut my teeth with Californians for Pesticide Reform and learning that model and being able to be one of the first Latinas to work in this area and to bring that health voice. And we changed the narrative. So when we first started working, we were talking about pesticides as purely environmental issues. Pesticide bills were being heard in Ag Committee and other committees. By the time, within 2 years, we had completely transformed the way people talked about pesticides. We started our bills around healthy schools, and others were going through Health Committee. And more importantly, Californians for Pesticide Reform also transformed itself. It was one of the first organizations that started working in the Central Valley and being able to provide opportunities for organizers there to actually work on the issues that mattered. And that has been such an instructive experience that it has carried into a lot of the coalitions that we work with now, from from Californians for Healthy Economy, a Green and Healthy Economy, to the California Environmental Justice Alliance. Denise, I don't know if you want to talk about. I think another part of our secret sauce is Denise is a performance artist. I have worked in the arts and as a health educator, and we often try to bring that into our work because we believe the work is hard and we should have fun.
Yes. So some of the more creative public awareness or popular education campaigns that we've done is the Toxies was one, and that was where we had actors impersonate toxic chemicals. So, for instance, we had for lead, we had a rocker dude, like heavy metal. For flame retardants, which is supposed to be something that protects you but actually doesn't, we had a villainous superhero, and we gave them awards. We actually had an event, had a show, and it was really fun because we got to communicate the same information in a fun and interesting way. And it was a great effort that was paired at the time, I think, with the green chemistry bill that was happening. So it had a policy edge. And then another example was when in 2010, when the Department of Homeland Security was doing Operation Golden Phoenix, which was a simulation of a 10-kiloton detonation similar to Hiroshima over Los Angeles, and they were doing their preparedness. And of course, PSR believes in prevention because there's really no meaningful medical response to nuclear war. So we did a flash mob. We did it at Hollywood and Highland. We did a dance to the final countdown. And people were shopping that they started to gather around and watch our performance. And then Dr. Dodge spoke to folks. So those are two examples that come to mind that we were able to pull in our creativity to do some different kinds of public awareness and education.
And those events also created community that talked all over the country with our allies. Each of the toxic chemicals were tied to a campaign. We were able, as that was part of the campaign, also to stop methyl iodide from being, which is a really dangerous pesticide, from being licensed in California. And another way that we approach this work is in multiple ways about how health, justice, and the environment intersect, but also how the things that we work on affect us in different ways. So everything from looking at the intersection of environmental justice and reproductive justice. Denise, what are some of the other ways that, you know, the Nuke work, but our other work is also intersectional?
Well, what comes to mind is our work on the Santa Susana Field Laboratory, which may have been our first time working with an impacted community and bringing health voices to bear on that. So the Santa Susana Field Lab is a former nuclear and rocket engine testing site in the hills above the Simi and San Fernando valleys. It is astronomically polluted. It had the worst nuclear meltdown in the country, still not cleaned up yet. Lots of other accidents, spills, and releases. And we began working really in the 70s with the community near there. I wasn't here then, but our predecessors did, and worked with other kinds of experts. We worked with public health experts, Committee to Bridge the Gap, Southern California Federation of Scientists, Rocketdyne Cleanup Coalition. Now we work with the parents group because sadly the contamination's there so long. We're seeing new generations that are impacted. And I think one of the justice angles that cuts through that is when there was a time they wanted to take some radioactively contaminated building debris and send it off to Kettleman Hills or to Buttonwillow, which are two hazardous waste sites in California. They're primarily low-income people of color that have had their share of toxics put in their neighborhood. They weren't even informed that this waste was coming, and the sites aren't licensed for radioactive waste. So the residents that live near the Santa Susana Field Lab protested and demonstrated against that waste going to another community that wasn't licensed for, that had no idea it was coming. And we sued. They tried to do it many years later, 2012, and that's still pending. So it's another example of how the work intersects.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we do research, we do advocacy, we sometimes work with lawyers to file lawsuits, and then we work with a lot of groups who are building and organizing and building base, and that's why we talk about building power, because, you know, again, to be able to address the issues that we work on, there is so much we have to change, but we also have to confront the power of the oil industry, of the chemical industry, of other polluters, and many captured regulatory agencies. And for that, we need a lot of power. And that's, I think, why we work with other groups and why we build connective tissue between different movements. So from the environmental justice movement, the reproductive justice movement, and other social movements, because the odds are so stacked up against us. And despite that, we win, we keep fighting, because we often know that many of these situations take 30, 40 years to address, and that's just not good enough. That is not a public health approach that acts on early warnings. And so we're going to wrap up right now, and I'm going to kick it back to Nicole, and then we'll be back with you in a little bit with a panel.
Wow, that was so much history and amazing work that you covered. Thank you, Denise and Martha, for sharing those incredible memories with us. I think the thing that I was most impressed about was the integration of your environmental justice work and the arts. I don't know if I've ever really seen or heard that before, so I think that was really unique and something that I was excited to hear about. All right, folks, we have a special prize for the first 5 people who pledged to join the PSRLA email list. Just type in your first and last name in the chat, and we will follow up with an email to pledge. We're going to let all this great history and storytelling simmer, and we're going to bring back DJ K Madre. Take it away.
Something for my godson Elijah and a little girl named Corinne. Some say the blacker the better, the sweeter the juice. I say the darker the flesh, then the deeper the roots. I give a holler to my sisters on welfare, Tupac kids, if don't nobody else care. And I know they like to beat you down a lot. When you come around the block, brothers clown a lot. But please don't cry, dry your eyes, never let up. Forgive but don't forget, girl, keep your head up. And when he tells you you ain't nothing, don't believe him. And if you can't learn to leave them. Cause sister, you don't need 'em. And I ain't trying to gash up, I just roll them how I see 'em. You know what makes me unhappy? When brothers make babies and leave a young mother to be unhappy. And since we all came from a woman, got our name from a woman, and I came from a woman. I wonder why we take from our women, why we rape our women, do we hate our women? I think it's time to kill for our women, time to heal our women, be real to our women. And if we don't, we'll have a race of babies that will hate the ladies that make the babies. And since a man can't make one, he has no right to tell a woman when and where to create one. So will the real men get up? I know you're fed up, ladies, but keep your head up.
Ooh, child, things are gonna get easy. Keep your head up. Ooh, child, things will get brighter.
Keep your head up.
Ooh, child, things are gonna get easy. Keep your head up. Ooh,
Say, I remember when we used to sit in a government yard in Brooklyn. About solving the crookedness as it mingle with the good people we meet. Good friends we had, oh, good friends we've lost along the way. In this great future, you can't forget your past. So dry your tears, I say, until my peeps who passed away. No woman, no cry. No woman, no cry. Say, oh, hey little sister, don't shed no tears. No woman, no cry. Say, I remember when we used to rock in a project yard in Jersey. And little Georgie would make the fire light as stolen cars passed through the night. And then we'd hit the corner store for roots, paper, and brew. Whoa. My drinks, my only remedy for pain of losing family. But while I'm gone, shorty, everything is gonna be alright. Everything is gonna be alright. Fuji's come to the dance tonight. Everything is gonna be alright. Everything is gonna be alright. Oh, everything is gonna be alright. The gunman's in the house. I'm with this complexion. Two step. Complexion don't mean a thing. It's a solo life. Ooh, complexion. Two step. It all feels the same. It's a solo life.
Dark is the midnight hour, her bright is the morning sun. Give a fuck about your complexion, I know what the Germans done. Sneak me through the back window, I'm a good field. I made a flower for you out of cotton just to chill with you. You know I go the distance, you know I'm 10 toes down even if Massa listening. Cover your ears, he bout to mention complexion. Two step. Complexion don't mean a thing. It's a solo life. Complexion. Two step. It all feels the same. It's a solo Dark is the midnight hour, her bright is the morning sun. Brown skinned, bunch of blue eyes. Tell me your mama can't run. Sneak.
And we are back. We have our 5 winners. They are Chloe Jankowitz, Gilberto Granados, Blanca Andres, Richard Moore, and Charlie Clements. Congratulations, you have won PSRLA magnets and pins. Thank you for engaging with us. Up next, we'll hear from Dr. Pavula, who Martha will introduce shortly about the Health Ambassador Program, followed by a panel discussion on the intersectional health and justice work at PSR LA.
Good evening. I was rocking out to the music there. So it's my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Jyoti Pavula. She is a board certified in adolescent medicine and works out of Harbor, UCLA, was trained out of UCLA. We have many years of working with her, training residents, but she's an inspiration. She's an inspiration, and you'll hear why in a minute. Dr. Pavula, take it away.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you all. It's such an honor and privilege to be sitting here with you guys and to be able to share my experiences with PSR. So for all those of you out in the audience, I hope you're able to join some of what I had was able to do. So just going back to PSR, my first experiences with PSR were when I first heard Dr. Helen Caldicott a long time ago, when she spoke about the devastating impacts of nuclear weapons to our planet. But really, it was about 20 years ago when I had the great privilege and honor of hearing and meeting some of the original founders and long-term PSR activists, Dr. Jack Geiger and Vic Seidel, that Martha actually talked about. This was actually a time when our nation was beating the drums of war. It had already finished with Afghanistan and was getting ready to go invade Iraq. And even though they didn't use nuclear weapons, they were using pretty much weapons of mass destruction, basically unleashing the wrath of our nation. They called it shock and awe. I remember watching it on prime time. And over the next few years, over 500,000 people would be killed, and by some estimates, over 1 million people. While our nation was in this war hysteria, they were taking away funds from essential services here in LA County. Remember, they were threatening to close hospitals, clinics, which they did, many of them, and really remember watching in despair and feeling helpless. Fortunately, at that time, we had many great mentors, and among them, I had the opportunity to listen to Dr. Vic Seidel, who basically told us that for all of us to not really to be waiting around for people to lead us to do something. So we at Harbor, he asked us, you need to pretty much start organizing, standing up and fighting for peace. So that was my first real PSR advocacy work, even though I wasn't part of PSR. Dr. Seidel, actually, along with a lot of other local activists, helped us form what we call Doctors for Peace, that started speaking at rallies, started speaking at events, educating others, the Board of Supervisors, and letting them know that if we're going to waste money on weapons and war, it pretty much comes from education, from healthcare, and other things in our communities that we were in desperate need of. Mind you, you guys have heard about staying in your lane, but this was a time in our medical school training when we were always told to focus on nothing but seeing patients in clinic. It was a time when we physicians were trained to stay in our lane, a very narrow one-way lane. So this was a time when Dr. Jack Geiger talked to us not only about how, as we as physicians, not only do we have to get out of our narrow one-way lane, but in fact, we have to get off the freeway. We have to get into the community. And he talked not just about the war that we were waging in these unknown lands, killing children of mothers we didn't know, but he reminded us of the wars that were playing out in our own communities here. A war where poverty and structural racism are the weapons that were killing Black and are still continuing to kill Black and brown children at much higher rates than white children. In communities like Watts, I had many of my patients from community of Watts, but never had I been there. Through the Health Ambassador Program, about 7 years ago, many of us really actually started going to the community of Watts and learning for the first time that the life expectancy in Watts, which is just 10 miles away from a community like Brentwood, was less than 12 years less than Brentwood, which was so close by. Mind you, in 1900, the life expectancy difference between African Americans and whites was 15 years. So with all our technology and everything, that gap was narrowed by 3 years. So Dr. Geiger spoke about the concept of these lives were less worthy of life than our own. He talks about how while this may not be equivalent to the atrocities of Nazi Germany or us bombing in Iraq, but when we let Black children die at much higher rates than white children, when Black and brown men can be killed without any consequence, we are essentially saying that these are less worthy of life than our own. And we are saying that if we choose to do nothing about it. So as physicians, how do we advocate for true health? So I feel like my second medical health education training started with this Health Ambassador program 7 years ago, where I learned to put that white coat back on again and to use it not just in the clinic where it creates a divide sometimes between us and our patients, but to use the voice and privilege that comes with that white coat to advocate for social injustice in our communities. My teachers were the community this time around, an incredible group of individuals from PSR, from other organizations in South Los Angeles and Watts, incredible women like Monica Shunker, Thelmy, Martha, Denise, and all the people in the community. This is where I learned the crucial role of each of us physicians and non-physicians, what we can do in our communities. In the HAP program, you learn first about the communities, about their struggles, what it's like to be a mother raising children in soil contaminated with lead and water that is tainted with lead and is unfit for consumption. Raising children in communities like Watts, which is among the top 5 most polluted communities in all of California, with minimal green spaces, with high evictions, violence. We learned how this is not by accident that Watts went from a thriving community to a community devastated by systemic and structural violence and racism to what it's now today. And we learned that despite all of these, how resilient the community is. And so to counter and how the images that we see in media are so different from what this community is actually all about. So in the HAP program, you learn how to do health education, advocacy in the community, but doing this by accompanying the community and doing this with humility and training us to go not from the community all the way to the Capitol, doing legislative visits, talking to media, writing op-eds, and you're never alone. They were always with us, training us on how to do some of this work. And this program is available not just for physicians, for any of you who are in residency program, medical schools, health professionals, non-medical students, and everyone. It's really a training about how to be an effective advocate. They provide you training and support throughout. Like I said, I learned a lot of my medical knowledge came in medical school, but to be a real healer that tries to address the injustice in our society, this is one of the places I learned some of these skills. So COVID may have shut down the restaurants, schools, and other places, but injustice hasn't shut down. It hasn't slowed down. If anything, this divide is much greater now. And the need to advocate for justice is even greater now than ever before. And this work is not something we can do alone. So if you all have, and we need all of you guys to do this work, we all have to do this together. So if you took the time to come listen to us today, we really urge you all to become a member, to become part of this training, talk to us, ask us questions, and really for all of us to fight together to bring true health and justice to our communities. So with that, I will pass it to Martha and Nicole. We're going to actually go to our panel. We're going to open it up for questions from all of you. So thank you all for being with us today.
Thank you, Dr. Papula. I can say I was really inspired by your words. The idea of not staying in your lane and stepping out of the lane is amazing. And sounds like good trouble, right? Getting into good trouble, trying to make a change. I lived and worked in Watts for a number of years. So really, really happy to hear that there's lots of work that is being done to improve that community. So let's go into our panel. Our first question is, what are each of you most excited about accomplishing this year?
Who wants to go first? I'll start. Well, I'm excited about a lot of things. We're doing, I think one of the big projects that we're doing, and that's low-key there. Um, we are working on a climate emergency department, the first department in the city of Los Angeles. We were able before COVID to get $1 million allocation to hire climate emergency director for an office, and we created a commission that's populated by people who live in the most polluted areas of Los Angeles. And now we're stuck, right? We fought for the money back, but the city of Los Angeles continues to sort of like to do things that says they're acting on climate, but falling short of acting on climate from a justice perspective. So we continue to work to create that department, to get it funded. And now through that department, we're doing all these great pilot projects to reduce emissions, including figuring out how to do building electrification in a way that's just and fair to low-income communities. And then I think I'm also excited about figuring out how we are going to address this issue of race and systemic racism within the public health community and the health community.
I'll go next. I am excited about some things that really also show how we here in Los Angeles can have influence beyond our region. One of them is the Back from the Brink campaign, Back from the Brink, the Call to Prevent Nuclear War, which is a national grassroots campaign that PSR has taken a leading role in, where we're bringing communities together throughout the country. This is public health officials, scientists, students, veterans, the interfaith community, coming together to bring forth resolutions that have common sense policy solutions to some of the most vexing nuclear threats that we have, most of which, of course, is the proliferation of nuclear weapons, building new nuclear weapons, and the risk of nuclear war, and really making this local and taking it to cities and states throughout the country to get these resolutions passed. So we're able to both educate the public while we do that and engage them and build that power on up. The city of Los Angeles adopted a resolution, the state of California did. And what happened as a result of this growing, the website, by the way, new website this year, preventnuclearwar.org. I'll say it again, preventnuclearwar.org, is the ICANN, the International Coalition to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, which is a project of IPPNW, the International Physicians for the Prevention of Nuclear War, looked at what we were doing, and they launched a cities appeal for cities around the world to start to do the same things, for cities to, in this case, say that they support and want their countries to be part of the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. This treaty was just ratified last month. It is modeled after treaties that ban chemical weapons, biological weapons, landmines, cluster munitions. These weapons that are by UN treaty banned, nuclear weapons need to be in that category. And it's been a long time coming, and public health officials were at the forefront of that. So it's going to now enter into force in January. And we're looking forward to more and more countries ratifying. 122 of 2/3 of the world's nations ratified it. So through this process, we do local work. We work with impacted communities in the nuclear space, that's atomic bomb survivors or downwinders. We build coalitions with other partners, and we take it to our elected officials, and we get to the point where we build the political will where our elected officials have to take action.
And I'll respond to by saying that Martha, Denise, and all of you guys, we want to be hopefully the cadets you guys all train. So hopefully we take this whole health ambassador training program to medical schools, residencies, all the other programs. I know you've been training our physicians, but hopefully this will be something every single one of us get trained so we can all start doing advocacy work in our communities.
Next question, back to you, Dr. Bahula. Why did you first get involved in PSR LA, and what does this organization mean to you?
Yeah, great question. So, it started it was kind of serendipitous. It was by accident when I started listening to Dr. Helen Caldicott and a lot of the medical students who actually were doing this work. That's when I first heard about it and really admired the people. but really it was later, like I said, Dr. Seidel, listening about PSR LA, the work that they were doing. That's how I started getting involved. And it was actually our students, our residents, who were doing the Health Ambassador Training Program who told me about it. And that's how I ended up starting getting involved. Dr. Yasser Hiron, Dr. Tatiana Velo, there was many other doctors who were doing this work in the community of Watts. And what does it mean to me? It really means hope. This is a time when I would feel despair sitting alone. It makes me not feel alone. It makes me feel like being with a group of people who are fighting, who are coming together. So it really is a symbol of hope for me, is what this organization means and what we can do as a collective to really fight injustice.
Absolutely. Martha, do you have any suggestions for those of us who want to be more involved in these issues but don't know where to start?
First, join PSR, attend our webinars, be part of the Institute, reach out to Rahel. We are planning more ambassador trainings in the beginning of next year. So we will be, having there's lots of opportunities to get involved. You could do big things, small things, something as small as doing a tweet, something as big as writing an op-ed, or in the case of Dr. Pavula, actually doing water sampling. So there's many things, right? Depending on the kind of time you have, but it could be as simple as getting on our mailing list. And when you get an email from us, click it, open it, and take an action. It's pretty, again, it's if you just have 5 minutes or if you've got several hours a month that you want to give, there's ways for you to integrate into the work. And we work with so many great groups that, if you're interested in another issue, we can help you find ways to use your health professional voice and engage.
Perfect. So it sounds like there's something for everyone. Denise, how do you envision PSR LA's role in the global movement to abolish nuclear weapons?
We're leading it. No. I addressed some of this, I think, a little bit when I spoke earlier. But I think one of the things that we can do also is model this intersectionality. The nuclear disarmament space is got a ways to go in terms of diversity and inclusion. Both it's more and more being addressed now within the community. But I think that what we could do here in Southern California with Back from the Brink and within ourselves is to model what a truly intersectional nuclear disarmament movement looks like. We have many allies we have yet to talk to here about endorsing the campaign. So I think that one thing, there's a lot of other groups that work on this issue only work on that issue. So they're not able to cross-pollinate that we are. They're not able to tap into their colleagues' networks in terms of really building power. It's public awareness is where we start, but we really do have to build a political will. And I think that we have a unique opportunity, particularly here in Los Angeles, to show what a truly diverse and multicultural, multi-generational nuclear disarmament movement looks like.
Okay, the question of the night. Denise, do you really think that we can abolish nukes?
Yes, I think we can, and I think we must. And as Beatrice Finn put when she accepted the Nobel Peace Prize for ICANN, either we abolish nukes or they abolish us. One of those two things will happen. We have to decide what it's going to be. And we've already eliminated 50,000 of them. PSR and other groups like ours that have been doing this for a long, long time. We once had 70,000 nuclear weapons in the global arsenal. So we know how to do it. They're not an act of God. They're not a force of nature. We built them. We could take them apart. And it just, all we need to do is the political will. And in terms of existential threats, the technical part is easier there than, say, with climate change, because we need energy. We do not need nuclear weapons. They are not necessary. Deterrence is a myth. So I think, yes, it is possible. And yes, we will do it together.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Martha, what virtual programs and other events is PSR LA planning for 2021?
Well, I'm going to give you a teaser, but you have to stay and listen to Rahel. we are, everything will be virtual until it isn't. And we expect that to happen, to be going on throughout at least the middle of the year. We are launching the Health and Justice Institute, which is a series of webinars to deepen our knowledge on some of the core issues that we work on, including the role of race in health and the environment. So you can, through this, if you signed up to this, you can find out about the other events. We'll probably be doing other events. We're probably doing something with Standing Together Against Neighborhood Drilling. We're doing so much work around just transition and trying to get Los Angeles to actually plan a just transition that protects workers and communities. So we'll be doing some roundtables on that. And then many of our partners will also be doing work that you can also be invited to. Do I have any plans for the Toxies? Yes, we want to bring them back. I'm hatching a plot now about a potential project with the Toxies. And given the fights that we've been having with the oil industry and with the natural gas industry and with the chemical industry, we've got plenty to parody about how they've really contaminated our politics and our democracy. So keep your fingers crossed that we were able to raise money to be able to do the Toxies.
Awesome. I remember the Toxies very well. I think when we first met, so that'd be really great to have something like that come back again. All right, this question is for everyone. What lessons have you learned over your 40 years as an organization, and how have you adapted? Denise.
I think one of the lessons that we learned has to do with the Health Ambassador program. We know from the physicians that we work with that there's not a lot of training in medical school on at least there wasn't when we started, environmental health issues. And we learned that physicians often feel like they need to know every little fact, or maybe feel like they wouldn't be so comfortable in front of a camera. And so one of the things that I think is a lesson that we learned is that we can bring physicians together and have them meet with us staff about our issues, but also give them training on how to do public testimony, how to write comments, how to speak to the media. And that I think has been a lesson that's really built up our physician advocate muscle.
Martha, Dr. Pavula?
Oh, so many lessons. You know what? Be nimble. Stay committed to your core values of justice, of inclusion, of speaking truth to power, and really be flexible and have a vision, right? Sometimes we go back and read our goals that we wanted, and we're like, oh, look, we did that. And so I think that, being really focused on the mission, really focused on making change and what you need to do, and have fun, because this is hard.
I'm much newer, but I would have to say for me to keep on learning with social justice work, like people like you, Martha, and others, all of us who have been doing this for a long time. This is lifelong work. In the meanwhile, we do have to take little breaks to catch our breath, but we have to keep on going. And unless we all keep doing this, social injustice will prevail, but we're not going to let that happen. So we're going to keep on moving and keep hope.
Absolutely. Keep on pushing through, right? Question for you, Dr. Pavula. Any advice on how we can start spreading this to all doctors, residents, medical students, and allied health professionals? How can we get the word out, spread the word?
Yeah, so first of all, everybody who's here, now you're part of this advocacy team, whether you have done the Health Ambassador program or not. So after you listen to Rahel, you pretty much should go back to your programs, your workspace, wherever you are, and see, reach out to Rahel, sorry, Rahel, I know you'll be talking about this, but about if you can have this health ambassador training program in your own space, in your own institute. It's for every single person. So my goal, when you guys had asked, what do I plan on doing this year? That's one of the things, reaching out to every medical school that's local here. Now with virtual, we can even go beyond local, and they cater it to your program, your school, your undergrad, whatever it is. So yeah, and please feel free to reach out to me, to Rahel, how we did it for our residents, for school. Yes, so you can get my information from the people, yeah, from Rahel and everyone else.
You had talked earlier about the difference in life expectancy from residents in Brentwood compared to Watts. Can you talk a little bit more about the types of health disparities you see in your work? We can use Brentwood and South LA if you want. I see the same issues. We'll probably have the same answers if I was to answer based on my work in public health. But can you talk a little bit more about those health disparities?
Yeah, and sure, Nicole, you have been there a lot, so you should share as well. I have not worked in Brentwood. So I work at Harbor UCLA, which is a public safety net hospital. So we do have a lot of patients from South LA, especially with the closure of Martin Luther King Hospital. While the clinics are there, many of the patients that come to Harbor are from these areas. So what do we do? See, when you look at a macro level, like health indicators, what we see is the high rates of, in terms of medical conditions, you see high rates of hypertension, high rates of asthma, ER, much higher than the surrounding communities. It lights up. If you go to the LA County Public Health, you can actually see the maps, and you see Watts and South LA light up in red for asthma admissions to the ER, hypertension, heart disease, diabetes, obesity, and it keeps going on. And then when you look at the life expectancy, that's the other thing you see much lower, right? And then when you look at the map to see where are the health professionals going to actually work, what you find they're not going. Watts and South LA are health professional shortage areas. So that's at a macro health level. But at a more basic level, when you start looking at the structures, we were in the community doing household randomized surveys with PSR in the community, and nearly 99 to 100% of them said they did not have clean drinking water. They talked about violence in the community. On the one hand, from ICE agents and police, and on the other hand, there's violence in the community and nowhere sometimes to call or ask, the trash in their neighborhoods. But these were people willing to do the work to fight and change things, but often were not given the voice to do some of these things. So the disparities are from the macro, like I talked about, the environmental, the poverty, many of those things leading all the way to what the life expectancy difference is. So Nicole, do you want to add to that?
I absolutely agree. I actually did work in, crazy enough, I worked in South LA and I also worked in West LA. So I had two service areas. I was a health educator at the time. And it was just amazing for me to be able to go between both of those communities and see such differences in everything. So yes, the health issues were very different as far as the rates of disease, but just even the landscape of those communities were very, very different. Lack of park space in South LA. Then you cross over, La Brea or La Cienega heading west, and it looks totally different. All the restaurants, the difference in food quality, all of those things were really stark, like night and day. And I remember putting that phrase in my book. I said, it's like night and day, going from one side of this county to the other. And it seems so unfair that these differences exist. And I think the realization for me is that they're not accidental, right? They're not this thing that just happened and oh, well, that they're calculated and intentional. And that just like we talked about, we can undo some of the nuclear weapons. We can undo a lot of these structures and systems that create this disparity in health outcomes for our residents of LA County so that everyone has the opportunity to access all of the resources they need to live their best life. And it's something that I talk about a lot and I worry about a lot. I think a lot about things like African American infant mortality, how things like education don't really protect Black women from losing their babies. And what is it that's causing these issues? And so all the things that you talked about, Dr. Pavula, are things that again, spend my days and nights worrying about. And I spend my time trying to teach my students in grad school so that they understand and can be informed as they move through their lives on how to vote, how to think about important issues in their communities. So the last question is for me and for Martha. The first question is for me. How does the work with PSR inform my public health work? And as I kind of alluded to just now, it has been such a great benefit to me to know Martha and to work in the capacity of as a board member, because I've been able to learn so much. I've had Martha and her staff come to Occidental College, where I'm an adjunct professor of public health. And every time they come, of course, the lecture is a little bit different. I always learn something new, and I actually feel like a student. I'm more excited than they are. Like, wait a minute, I didn't know this before. So it definitely is a benefit to me in my daily work. And also in my work on the side as an adjunct professor. And I'm really, really happy and feel so honored to be a part of all of this. And then the last question, Martha, what have been some of the greatest joys and biggest challenges of leading this organization?
Well, I think when I first came to the organization, some of the biggest joys were being able to actually, grow our funding and increase our staff. And then, a few years, about 10 years ago, we made a commitment to hire and train young folks from the communities that we work with, young women and men of color, to be that next generation of leaders in the environmental justice movement and public health movements. And they've been both my greatest joy and my greatest sadness. One, when these amazing young folks come to the office and you're running to keep up with them because they're 30 years younger than you. And you see their development and their growth, and they're stepping into leadership. And that's, to me, and there's too many examples, and I don't want to leave any staff out, but, for the last years that, while I've been the ED for 11 years, really that has been amazing. And then the challenges, man, just being a nonprofit director is hard, right? The work is, the work you win, and then sometimes you don't win, but that's the way the work is. I think, I think sometimes dealing with the lack of political will from elected officials who should be better than they are, that's hard. It's hard for me to see Latino elected officials not standing up for Latino communities. And that is hard. But I think, keeping and growing the organization, it's challenging, but it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life.
Thank you all for the panel. Thank you, Dr. Pavula, Denise, Martha. We are now going to go to our next break. We've got another opportunity for y'all to engage in the chat with us to win a prize. Our goal for tonight is to gain 10 new members. When you become a member of PSR LA, you are joining a long legacy of physicians and health activists who are innovators in protecting public health. If you are not already a member, we encourage you to join us. You can pledge a donation or chat your name to become a member, and we will follow up with you afterwards. Again, the first 10 people to pledge either a donation or membership get a PSR LA branded t-shirt. I think I'm going to t-shirt myself. And the highest donation pledge will receive my book. DJ K Madre will get us going with some music while you all chat in the chat room. Take it away.
Hello. Thank you again for joining us for Physicians for Social Responsibilities 40th year anniversary. My name is DJ K Madre. Thank you.
I was born by the river in a little tent. Oh, and just like
It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die. 'Cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will.
Mother, mother, there's too many of you crying. Brother, 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 there's far too many of you dying. You know we've got to find a way to bring some loving here today. Yeah. Father, Father, we don't need to escalate. You see, war is not the answer, for only love can create. You know we've got to find a way to bring some love in here today. Oh, picket lines and picket signs don't punish me with brutality. Talk to me so you can see what's going on. What's going on? Yeah, what's going on? Oh, what's going on?
What you want, baby, I got it. What you need, do you know I got it too? All I'm asking is for a little respect when you come home. Just a little bit, hey, baby, just a little bit. Oh, just a little bit, mister, just a little bit. I ain't gonna do you wrong while you gone. Ain't gonna do you wrong, 'cause I don't wanna. All I'm asking is for a little respect when you come home. Just a little bit, baby, just a little bit. Oh, just a little bit, just a little bit. I'm out to give you all my money, and all I'm asking in return, honey, is to give me my promise when you get home. Just a little bit, baby, just a little bit. Oh, just a little bit, just a little bit. Ooh, your kisses, sweeter than honey. And guess what? So is my money. All I want you to do for me is give it to me when you get home. Yeah, baby, whip it to me. Just get home now, just a little bit. R-E-S-P-E-C-T, find out what it means to me. R-E-S-P-E-C-T, take out T-C-P. Sock it to me, sock it to me, sock it to me, little respect. Sock it to me, sock it to me, sock it to me. Just a little bit, little respect. Just a little bit. I'll get tired. Just a little bit. Keep on trying.
All right, folks, we are back. Thank you again for engaging with us. We will announce the winners toward the end of the event. We've got a special message from Senator and Supervisor-elect Holly Mitchell. Mitchell was first elected to the legislature in 2010. She represents nearly 1 million residents of the 30th Senate District, which ranges from Century City to South Los Angeles, It includes Culver City, Cheviot Hills, Crenshaw District, USC, downtown LA, and a portion of Inglewood. California State Senator Holly Mitchell is now Supervisor-elect of the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors, District 2. Welcome, Holly Mitchell.
Good evening. I'm Holly Mitchell, and I want to congratulate Physicians for Social Responsibility, LA, on your 40th anniversary. You know, in the nonprofit sector, 40 years is significant. The fact that you've been able to continue to be mission-driven, mission-focused, and stay afloat and get your money to keep your doors open for 40 years is no small feat, having run 2 nonprofit organizations. Trust me, I know. So 40th anniversary is a big deal, and I wish you all the very best. I have enjoyed my working relationship over the years with Martha, and really want to tip my hat to you in your leadership of the organization. You know, we've had the opportunity to work together as my current capacity as state senator, and I look forward to our ongoing collaboration and working relationship as I enter into my own new journey as the supervisor-elect for the 2nd Supervisorial District. You know that our values and vision for our community are very closely aligned, and it's reflected in the work we've been able to do together over the years. Again, leading the fight against neighborhood oil drilling and uplifting science-based evidence to protect California residents. I'm coming to the conclusion of my 10 years in the legislature, and it's given me cause for pause to look back over what I've accomplished, what successes I've had, and some pretty significant losses. But it's the relationships that I have found the most rewarding and the most important to me. So thank you, Physicians for Social Responsibility, Martha, your board, your staff, for all you do for the residents of South LA in particular, and LA County as a whole. It's been a pleasure, and know that I will continue to be your partner in all the good work that lies ahead for all of us. Have a great evening, and happy 40th anniversary.
I live in District 2, so I am especially excited for Supervisor-elect Mitchell. So woohoo for her. As you know, we're also launching our Health and Justice Institute webinar series today. To tell us a bit more about this is Rahel Kamal, PSR LA's membership coordinator. Take it away.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Rahel Kamal, and I'm the membership coordinator at PSR LA. We're really excited to be here celebrating not only our 40th year anniversary, but also the launch of our new Health and Justice Institute. Now, all of us at PSR LA recognize that we're living in unprecedented times, where grief and loss are abundant, and we're inching closer and closer to a climate catastrophe. Through the Health and Justice Institute, we really want to dig deeper into the issues that impact our communities by bringing together experts in those issue areas, health professionals, and the impacted community to the table. Through discussion and building our scope of knowledge around intersectional social justice issues, we'll be ready to take action and stand together in solidarity. And we're excited to announce that we're launching the Health and Justice Institute with a webinar series. Today, we're setting the stage for the following webinars. We're reflecting on our 40 years of health and justice advocacy through our fight for nuclear disarmament and climate justice. Our second webinar will address community health and safety, where we will look closely at international relations with respect to warfare, chemical and nuclear weapons, and the connections between local and global militarization and the impacts those issues have on health. Now, just yesterday, the American Medical Association recognized racism as a public health threat. In our third webinar, we will discuss systemic racism and health, and why health professionals need to care and why they need to act on these issues. We'll take a closer look at what's happening in the clinics and the intersections of race and climate justice, and how that's all intertwined in healthcare. And lastly, we'll come together with all that we've discussed, and we'll envision the next 40 years together. We'll seek to answer questions such as, what does a just recovery from COVID-19 look like? What does a just recovery from the climate crisis look like? And what do we want the world to look like in 40 years? But we do hope that you can join us for the very important conversations that we plan on having. They will be held quarterly. Our next webinar will be in in February, our third one in April, and our final one will be held in July. We're working to solidify the exact dates for those, so we encourage you to join our email list so that you get the email updates. You can contact me directly through my email at rkamal@psr-la.org if you have any questions following the webinar. You can also direct any questions you have about the health professional training, the Health Ambassador program, to me through my email. Thank you for your attention. I really look forward to engaging you all.
Thank you, Rahel. I'm really looking forward to those webinars. They sound exciting and something I could probably share with my students. So thank you for that. I'm excited. Thank you all for hanging with us to this point in the evening. Many of you participated in our pledges and we'll be announcing them in a few minutes. First, here are the prizes for tonight. For those of you who entered your name to join our email list, you will receive a PSR LA magnet and pin. Let me see here. Let me get my list together. Okay. Let's see. Did I already announce the pins? I'm over here confusing. Okay, I'm sorry. I already announced those. Okay, the winners from the second pledge who chatted in their names to become members will receive a PSR LA t-shirt. Okay, here we go. Blanca Andres, Gilbert Granados, Mike Martin, and Jan Dietrich get t-shirts. Okay. Lastly, the person with the largest donation, thank you so much, is Kristen Dodge. Thank you so much, Kristen Dodge. You will receive a signed copy of my book. This concludes my time with all of you. I appreciate you all taking the time to celebrate with us. And I'm just so happy to be here and share this time with you. Martha will share a few words with you all before we close for the evening. Once again, it was a pleasure spending time with you all tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. And it's good to see old friends. Hi, Jan and Kristen and others who are old friends of PSR. And to all of the new folks who are on, I encourage you to join. If you weren't able to join or get or join through the chat, please go to our website, join. Please reach out to Rahel or to myself if you have questions. You know, the way we make change is by getting involved, and I often say to myself and to others, speak up even when your voice shakes. And when health professionals speak up, people trust and listen. And so you're incredibly important to our being able to make the kind of change that we want to make in the world. Look out for, sign up for the newsletter. When you get our emails, open them, act on them, and join us for the Institute, and join us. We will be having some actions over the next few weeks. Go to any of our social media sites so that, right now we have a Twitter storm to the city of Los Angeles to light a fire under them to actually do the 2,500 foot setback. So there's lots of opportunities to get engaged in really critical public health issues. And I also really want to thank my staff and the hard work they did to pull this together and this new format. So Rahel, thank you so much for stepping up. It's been a great pleasure to work with you and watch you over the last year and a half. To Denise, my homegirl, my soul sister, thank you for everything that you do, for being a double Virgo, and to Jen, and to Paula, and to Mikey, to Eric. I'm going to leave somebody out, to Jasmine, to Rahel, to Mato, get Mikey. That's the staff. They're amazing. And I hope you can support us in the work that we're doing and join us in this odyssey to actually bend the arc of history towards justice. Is that it's a heavy arc and we need all hands on deck. So thank you so much for joining me and joining us. And now we are going, and Paula, I forgot Paula, sorry. Paula Torrado Plazas, who is carrying our air quality work. Thank you so much for everything you're doing and your passion, and really the passion that all the staff brings. And I'm going to stop talking and hand it over to DJ Que Madre.
Hello. Thank you again for joining me for Physicians for Social Responsibility's 40th year anniversary. Again, my name is DJ Que Madre, and I really hope you enjoyed today's movement songs.
You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. You will not be able to lose yourself on Skag and skip out for beer during commercials because the revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by Xerox in 4 parts without commercial interruptions. The revolution will not show you pictures of Nixon blowing a bugle and leading a charge by John Mitchell, General Abrams, and Spyro Agnew to eat hog maws confiscated from a Harlem sanctuary.
In the spirit of God, in the spirit of the ancestors, in the spirit of the Black Panthers, in the spirit of Assata Shakur, we make this movement towards freedom for all those who have been oppressed and all those in the struggle. Yeah, check it. There were lights and sirens, gunshots flying. Cover your eyes as I describe a scene so violent. Seemed like a bad dream. She laid in the blood puddle. Blood bubbled in her chest. Cold air brushed against open flesh. No room to rest. Pain consumed these breaths. Shot twice with her hands up. Police questioned, but shot before she answered. One Panther lost his life, the other ran for his. Scandalous the police were as they kicked and beat her. Comprehension, she was beyond, trying to hold on to life. She thought she lived with no arm, that's what it felt like. Got to the hospital, eyes held tight. They moved the room to room, she could tell by the light. Handcuffed tight to the bed, through her skin they bit. With guns to her head, every word she got hit. She shot the trooper, they asked her. Put mace in her eyes, threatened to blast her. Her mind raced, still things got still. Opened her eyes, realized she's next to her best friend who got killed. She got chills as they told her that's what she would be next. Hurt mixed with anger, survival was a reflex. They lied and denied visits from a lawyer, but she was building as they tried to destroy her. It wasn't but a
What's wrong with the world, mama? People living like they ain't got no mamas. I think the whole world's addicted to the drama, only attracted to things that'll bring the trauma. Overseas, yeah, we trying to stop terrorism, but we still got terrorists here living in the USA, the big CIA, the Bloods and the Crips and the KKK. But if you only have love for your own race, then you only leave space to discriminate, and to discriminate only generates hate. And when you hate, then you're bound to get irate. Yeah, madness is what you demonstrate, and that's exactly how anger works and operates. Man, you gotta have love just to set it straight. Take control of your mind and meditate. Let your soul gravitate to the love, y'all.
People killing, people dying, children hurt and you hear them crying. When you practice what you preach and what you turn the other cheek. Father, 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 help us. Send some guidance from above. These people got me questioning. Where is the love?
Life, I wonder, will it take me under? I don't know. Imagine smoking weed in the street without cops harassing. Imagine going to court with no trial. Lifestyle cruising blue Bahama waters. No welfare supporters. More conscious of the way we raise our daughters. Days are shorter, nights are colder. Feeling like life is over. These snakes strike like a cobra. The world's hot, my son got knocked. Evidently, it's elementary. They want us all gone eventually. Trooping out of state for a plate. Knowledge, if coke was cooked without the garbage, we'd all have the top dollars. Imagine everybody flashing. Fashion, designer clothes. Lacing your click up with diamond rolls. Your people holding dough, no parole, no rubbers. Going raw, imagine law with no undercovers. Just some thoughts for the mind. I take a glimpse into time, watch the blimp read, the world is mine. Imagine that.
Es la banda rebelde. Es la banda rebelde que cantaré porque somos chicanos. Porque somos chicanos de East LA, ay arriba y arriba. Ay arriba y arriba y arriba iré, yo no creo en fronteras. Yo no creo en fronteras, yo cruzaré,